Here we go. That's how it's done. Fucking brilliant.
This next challenge is the ultimate culinary test. Tonight, you will be replicating a highly technical Gordon Ramsay dish.
Nice. That's right. You'll have to rely on your eyes and your palate to recreate it, because I'm gonna make it, but I'm not gonna tell you what's in it.
Yes, chef.
I just won this apron, and you already want me to cook like you? Really?
So, fish is gonna be the star of this dish. What's the first thing you see on fish when it comes out of the sea?
Scales.
Scales, yeah.
Scales. So, gently place the scales on. This is all about finesse.
There's nothing better than watching Gordon Ramsay cook.
Scale side down.
It's mesmerizing. He moves with this confidence that I don't think I've ever seen anybody cook with.
In to the oven.
But the problem is, I'm seeing all of these ingredients that I can't quite place.
Think of the perfect garnish.
Like, those are definitely not cheese balls. Like, they're carrots, right?
In here, a delicious vegetable couscous.
I have never in my life heard of a vegetable couscous.
The sauce will be based on 2 items, olive oil and a stock. Just smell the fragrance in there. Bill, don't singe that beard. Now for the exciting part. Everything goes on a plate for a reason. You put anything on the plate, we are going to judge you. Vegetables around the outside, so we've got the taste of the earth. One thing you don't do is flood the plate with the sauce. You put it on there with a little bit of elegance. And then finally,
It smells so good.
just
Oh, wow.
lift. And then on.
Wow.
How cool was that?
Gordon, thank you so much for making it out today.
Nice to see you. I've never walked so fucking slow in my life. Ever. So my apologies.
Slow? Are you kidding me? That was incredibly fast. I was expecting to have to tell them, like, give them a long applause.
Trust me, from a chef's point of view, that was not fast. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you,
Welcome.
sir.
Good to see you guys.
Tell me about Gordon Ramsay Dash. Where did this idea come from?
It's fascinating having 4 amazing young kids, watching them download app after app, not getting distracted, but getting excited. And I think for me, the idea behind this was, how do you put yourself in an app and get that kind of excitement and build out an empire? So how do we become different? When you see what's gone on and how good Lou have been, letting me be me and getting creative, and then putting the players under pressure, which I think today that pressure's healthy.
I agree.
I think we need more of that, because that sort of carves your life out. And I think cooking is one of the most exciting jobs ever to be involved with. But when you're in the doldrums and it's not working for you, it's one of the worst. So the more pressure you put yourself under, I think the better you become.
So now they can have the pressure of cooking under Gordon Ramsay in their pocket everywhere they go.
Oh no, it's better than that. I'm actually in the kitchen with them. So we've designed a sort of mentoring aspect where I'll be in the kitchen with them every step of the way, praising them, commending them, supporting them, and and being disciplined with them. So it's quite unique. And then we've got the chef duels, where we'll go head to head with other chefs across the globe. And then something that I've been under the scrutiny with since 1998, ever since opening restaurant Gordon Ramsay, the Michelin Guide. So we came up with an idea. It's called the Wishlin, and so you will literally lose your stars if your restaurant starts tanking and you're not giving it the love that you know a restaurant deserves. And that will start off in a neighborhood sort of environment with a bistro. Then you build that out, whether it's an amazing taco or whether it's an incredible artisan pizzeria. I'll be on your case.
Can people also like if someone signs up for the game and starts playing it and is working under you as a mentee, do you think they'll also maybe learn tools to cook on their own in their own kitchen through the game?
Yeah, I mean, cooking at home for 3 or 4 at a dinner party is, nice and comfortable and easy. Running a fully booked restaurant and trying to organize and multitask at the same time, I'd like to think that's where this game goes into overdrive, because it gives you that chance to feel the heat. We're not going to get carried away with expensive ingredients, and I don't know why. There's a certain amount of chefs out there today that think that if they've got the best beef and the best truffles and the best mushrooms, then they become the best chef. Well, it's nothing to do like that. It's all about starting off with humble ingredients, starting slowly, and then building on those flavors. And then once you've got up to that level of respect and you know what you're executing, then venture into expensive ingredients. And that's exactly how we formed the app.
I'm curious, when was the last time you cooked in a restaurant?
Literally, I left Monday lunchtime, flew to LA last Friday night. For about 90 minutes at Royal Hospital Road. Matt Aby, the new head chef, taken over from Claire Smith. He put a new skate dish on. It was beautiful. We tweaked it. When was the last time I actually stood behind the line and spent 16 hours behind the line? I've worked hard not to do that. And
As much as I bet any chef who's gotten to a position similar to where you've been would say they've worked hard to not be behind the line, is there anything that you miss about being behind the line? I mean, it's such a exhilarating, adrenaline-based experience.
That's a good question. Listen, there's a flip side to the industry. When you are in the thick of it and you can't see the wood for the trees, then it takes your life over. Very few make that fundamental decision to delegate and to enhance. So I'm very fortunate that I got up to speed with that early on. I won my 3rd Michelin star at the age of 33, and we went from 0 to 3 stars in six years. So we were incredibly lucky, gifted. I think the survival point for me then was teaching and mentoring and being firm with passing that knowledge on. So I still get asked that incredible question today that, if you're such a hands-on chef, who does the cooking when you're not there? Well, it's the same people do it when I am there. So that's the difference, and not everyone can understand that level of man management skills. So I think you've seen sometimes I get straight to the point, and there's no BS, and I'm like a bear. I got to get straight to the point. And secondly, I don't want to come back to work the next day with 10 issues that happened yesterday. So sometimes that seems a little bit awkward, a little bit too aggressive, and it doesn't suit everyone's sort of position. But it depends what you want. I don't think it's any different to playing, in the NBA or Super Bowl, soccer, representing your country. Cooking is exactly the same if you want to get to the very top, because it's built on decades of experience. It's not built overnight. And I think that's where I'm trusting with the brigade behind the scenes, but more importantly, the pressure's on them. And I think that's healthy.
Where do you find that exhilaration that you got from one time working behind the line? Where do you find that in your career now? Is it in delegating? Is it in taking on new projects, taking on a lot of projects?
Travel, I think, has been exceptional. Most extraordinary dinner recently at Saison in San Francisco. The place was beautiful. I mean, didn't get too carried away with foraging, but brought the artisan-style ingredients. And when they run out, they run out. That's the first thing I look for in a restaurant when stuff has sold out. It's a great sign. When you have 20 appetizers, 30 entrees, 25 desserts, and nothing changes, and everything's still available, get out of that restaurant.
That's a diner. That's not where you want to be.
Run for your life. So, listen, I have been behind the line. I've served my time, and, I look at it like almost conducting.
Yeah.
One bum note, one out-of-tune sequence, timing. But there's something that gives me an amazing amount of pleasure when I see the enhancement across these young chefs' career, when you've been at the footfall at their start, and you watch them grow. I'm 49 years of age. I had no intention of dying behind the stove, and I had no intention of having a heart attack behind the stove. So I needed to beat the system before it beat me, to be honest, because ask any 3-star chef in New York today, is John George behind the line every day? It can't be.
Yeah.
Thomas Keller recently got, a spanking from the New York Times. Was that justified? That's only one man's opinion. So let's understand one crucial element. The biggest critics in the world are your customers. they vote with their feet. And then on top of that, there's an even bigger critic, and that's yourself. So the saving grace for me is, Ricky, that I've never lost or squandered any of that passion that got me where I am today in comparison to 15 years later, still having that hunger for perfection. So the day I don't want that, or I don't find that, exhilarating, is the day I'll stop. Right now, I'm just, enjoying every minute of it.
The hunger for perfection that you have, how did you translate that into perfecting the television series that you work on, to perfecting this game? Essentially, mediums that you may not have the sort of background or know-how to be as controlling or perfectionist as you would normally like to be, where you can in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's some serious chefs out there, and then there's TV chefs. I was very lucky that before I went anywhere near TV, I was a real chef. I found my DNA. I knew what worked, and I knew what customers got excited about. So, scrap anything to do with TV. I still have, an amazing, and will have, a group of restaurants that are still at that forefront. So I didn't get carried away with that sort of level of adulation, fame, and money. I didn't start cooking for that. So how do I find that balance? I think I just keep it real. I mean, I think we know I take a lot of criticism for that, because everyone thinks it's, God, how can you be so blunt? That's what it's like in a real kitchen. I think that's the essence, because I'm not flipping burgers and dressing Caesar salads. We're cooking in the Premier League.
Who criticizes you for being blunt? You're a chef. You should be blunt. You're running, like you said, you have to be a perfectionist for a good restaurant, for a good show. Personally, I prefer bluntness from any sort of manager or boss in a given situation.
You don't read the press? You've never seen Kitchen Nightmares? I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I'm in there to help. They asked for the help first. Sadly, the business is on his ass, and we're left with a situation. Listen, when they're successful, you don't get praise. When they close, you get blamed. So you can't win either way. But what we do is put an enormous amount of work into it. And then the program goes out. They get that support from the community. They get fully booked for 3 or 4 weeks, but they don't handle that busyness properly to identify a positive cash flow, sustainability in terms of the change and development of the menu. And they get carried away with the sort of the cash side. They get cash rich, and they don't understand that you've got to pace yourself and make sure you've got that proper infrastructure running a business in order to survive. So so much work goes into that. There's a huge culinary team behind me. There's an art team. There's a production team that work out every little detail. We give them a prescription, and we leave them with all the necessary elements in place. I'll take them to the door, but they've got to walk through it.
Would you say that one of the reasons that you're successful in I think creating this game and designing this game, in the same way with your TV shows as well, and you kind of said it, was that you can be a perfectionist in the sense that you're not depending on this game? Like, if they don't do it the way that you see it, if they don't do it the way that you think it will be right, you can go to your restaurants to a degree.
There's a yes and no to the answer. It's a valid point, only because I've built that level of sustainability, I think. Trust me, if the game doesn't work, I'm going to get panned. And I'm going to get my ass
The game
kicked.
works, fortunately. The game works.
The game's been in beta discreetly over the last month in several countries globally, and it's been fascinating watching the sort of build-up. Glue up professionals at making, incredible apps. So we've been on the project for 2 years. This is just not a label slap where we put a name to it and it's going to work because it's called Ramsay. No, nothing of the sort. So we've tried and tested. I've been involved across the board, from day one. So it's going to work. I'm really excited about it, and I think more than anything, it's breaking new grounds. Why can't chefs have apps? You see a sportsman endorsing a sports drink. You don't stop supporting the sportsman. If it's Adidas or Nike, and that's not particularly your brand, but they wear that, you wouldn't stop supporting the team because it's sponsored by Nike. So I think it's just another multi-layer of what this industry offers when you're good at your job, when you can cook.
I think it's incredible, and it also, we saw a little bit in the preview, but it takes people to different restaurants around the world, into different kitchens. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes, I mean it depends what you strive for, and also it depends how good you are. So
Fantastic.
So you got too much time on your hands. So we'll start off humble and we'll build out, and then we'll get to a level where very, very, very similar to 1993. I came back from Paris. I opened up this corner bistro in the back of Beyond at Chelsea, a little restaurant called Aubergine. And everyone thought that was, the name for the eggplant. So it was a vegetarian restaurant. Everyone was obsessed with this vegetarian. It wasn't a vegetarian restaurant, but we couldn't afford, filet mignon. We had braised oxtail. We had no girolles or wild mushrooms. We had lentils. We couldn't afford ahi tuna, so we went to mackerel, 3 or 4 divisions down from the tuna family. And that's how we've built out the app. So you'll start off slowly, and you'll have that sort of mainstream, everyday available ingredients, and you'll build out. And you won't jump too quickly, because this industry is about a marathon. It's not a 100-meter sprint. And I think the amount of chefs I've seen crash and burn because they get a little bit giddy with the adulation and the support, and it just goes to the head. And I think it's a very true saying that you're only as good as your last dish.
How does the game how does the game judge the dishes itself? I mean, it's so interesting when we watch one of the shows, we can watch a chef taste it. We can sort of judge by how they're tasting it, where their opinion's going to come from. But with the game, it's bots to a degree. How do we? Yeah. How does it judge the dishes?
That's a very good question. You've got me breathing down your neck every step of the way. So I think more than anything, listen, we tried and tested from the artisan pizzeria to an amazing bistro to a Mexican taco cafe. So you'll see the layers of confidence, and you'll see the layers of staff. And I started off, Ricky, with 3 in the kitchen and 4 in the dining room, 6 days a week, 16, 17 hours a day. And as we got busier, we could afford more staff. As we got more staff, we got more fully booked. And, the secret of success of any good restaurant is having it fully booked on a Monday night. Thursday, Friday, Saturday is forgiven. If you're not full then, forget it. It's not going to happen. When you backtrack and Wednesday becomes as busy, and I'll go back to when I opened up a restaurant called Ramsay on the 1st of September 1998. I said to the bank, we're opening Monday to Friday. The team are going to work bloody hard, and we're going to have an amazing weekend off. And the bank said, well, why are you closing on the Saturday night? It's your busiest night. And I said, no, every night's going to be my busiest night. And to this day on, 18 years later, we've never opened on a Saturday, Sunday, because Monday lunch, Thursday lunch, Friday dinner is fully booked. So that's how we've formulated this amazing game where you will build and get consistent and get up to speed and learn how to multitask. But it goes back to cooking at home. When those amazing dinner parties are sat there and everyone's getting slightly sloshed, and they say, hey, Johnny, you should open yourself a restaurant. Your food's amazing, because they think cooking for a 6-top is like cooking for 60 guests. Well, it's chalk and cheese. I think that's why Nightmares was so successful, because all those drunk dinner parties, they decided the following week to start looking for investors. And that's the downside, I think, to our industry. And I mean our industry because as a doctor, you'll study medicine for 10 years. As a lawyer, you'll go to bar school and you'll study. Anybody can buy a restaurant, and that's what we're faced with. Anyone can go and buy a hotel without any credentials. And trust me, the amount of people that I've come across that turned around and said, I thought it was a good idea because I want to become rich. You don't become rich by running restaurants, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's rare that a restaurant is successful. It's very, very, very rare. It's actually one of the hardest industries to have and maintain success in.
Yeah, 65% close within the first 22 months of operating. So keep it local, focus on the community, what's within a 10 or 15 mile radius, and build it out, and stay focused on customers and nothing else.
I have to ask you, one of my favorite shows that you have is MasterChef Junior. I love the juniors. I love watching you interact with the juniors. And there's a sort of non-stop stake within the show of like, is this kid gonna cry? Oh my God. This kid has to start crying. I would cry. What's it like filming that show? How do you guys temper yourselves? How do you make sure that the kids are gonna be able to withstand the criticism?
Discipline inside those youngsters is crucial. So this is not about putting them on a platform and letting them fail. First thing I say to them, teachers have gone, parents are in the green room, let's get it on, let's have fun. Find a little bit about yourself that you never knew before you came into this competition. Also, I think having 4 kids, all I've said to Megan, Holly, Matilda and Jack, find your passion. Don't rely on me, and certainly don't rely on your mum, but find your passion. When you're passionate about something, it's not a job. It becomes easily done. With these kids, aged the 8 to 13, mentoring them, if you and I had to go for a piano lesson tonight, I guarantee it will take you 3 hours to get up to the first sequence. But if an 8-year-old has been taught, they'll get it within 15 minutes. So they're fearless, they're committed, they're little buggers, they're tenacious, they're passionate, and we do turn the pressure up on them. When we do put them in that bracket. But have you seen what it's produced? In terms of what's come out of that, from young Alexander to Logan, phenomenal kids. I mean, really phenomenal kids. And even if they don't ever follow, cooking or catering or food and beverage as a career, I think as a life skill, and I have installed that in all my kids, I'm fed up with them getting the blame because of their eating habits. It's not them, it's the parents I'm more pissed off with. Because how can you blame an 8-year-old because they've become fat? No, it's your mother and your father that should be blamed. So if we can re-educate those kids and understand that it's a life skill, and the amount of confidence it gives you by the time you're 10 that you can cook a 3-course dinner for your parents, that level of confidence going into your early teens, I think, is paramount. So the objective, off the record between you and I, is to have a curriculum back into schools. What is Latin going to do to an 8-year-old? What is German going to do to a 12-year-old in the middle of Chicago? But what is food, hygiene, and just a healthy, balanced lifestyle? What is that going to do for 5 years to a 10-year-old? Extraordinary. So MasterChef Junior is bigger than what you see on the screen. And from a dad's point of view, it's really important that they understand that cooking is as important as maths, is as important as English, because it's something they need to do for 3 times a day, 7 days a week, for the rest of their lives, and that's eat. Really important.
As someone who came up in the restaurant industry, still very much a part of the restaurant industry, but has their sort of tentacles spread out into other industries as well, mobile gaming, TV shows, books. Personally, I have this thing that is, I don't trust anybody that's an adult that didn't work in a restaurant in some capacity at some point in their life. I just don't. You had to have been there in a rush for at least a week of your life, getting yelled at by the chef and getting yelled at by customers. It builds a certain amount of respect and a certain amount of work ethic. Do you have anything like that as well in terms of someone who came up in the restaurant industry? Even if you're hiring a producer for a television show, something else, does it mean something to you that they at one time worked in a restaurant?
Yeah, I think it's that, going back to that core skill, installing that level of hunger and realizing that this is not, a glamorous job. You go out to dinner and you've consumed the entree or the appetizer in 4 or 5 minutes. You've been spending 12 hours on the build-up to get that moment. You get that momentum on the plate. You get that canvas, that blank canvas that you want to see. That bit of magic. You've got to know when to draw the line. When do you stop playing with food, and when does it become, absolutely perfect? To see that disappear in 90 seconds when you spent 8 hours prepping it, yeah, it's a big kick in the bollocks. But if it's not disappeared and they don't eat it all, or the one thing that bugs me more than anything, and I'm going to hold my hand up because my mum does the exact same. She'll come to the restaurant, she'll sit down, she won't ask for wine, and she'll ask for the meat to be overcooked, and then we overcook the lamb, and then we sort of keep it nice and moist, and then she'll sit with that plate of lamb in front of her, and she'll do something that we all dive under the hot plate. She'll pick up the salt, she'll pick up the pepper, and she'll season the bloody dish before she tastes it. Yeah. So, that's her generation. But going back to the mechanics of running a restaurant, it's frantic. And it scares a lot of people off, but it depends what you want to do.
I think it breeds a certain kind of work ethic, personally. Let's go to questions. First question.
Hi, Gordon. I'm a huge fan of a lot of your work, and I have 2 questions because Hell's Kitchen has a close place to my heart.
Right.
The first is, do you ever watch the behind-the-scenes footage to see how people really act? And the second is, I have about 5 things in my life I want to do, and one of them is eat there. How do people get tickets?
Okay. That level of privacy when they go up to the dorms and they do whatever they do, smoke, which just, seriously pisses me off because I don't know how you can sort of, focus on a combination of flavors with nicotine. So that level of privacy and the way they bitch, I have no interest. So that would be like me following my staff home and sat on the bus and listening to the sous chef call me out because I've been a dick and I wasn't going to listen to him. So I have to respect that privacy. And I'm amazed that you want to come and eat because no one eats in Hell's Kitchen. So they do. When it gets down to one kitchen, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting because we're focusing on one team. And, you know, I'm not fed up doing it. I just need a much better caliber of chefs. And, you know, we've got an idea now of setting up one kitchen with Michelin star rookies, 25-year-old, hungry, determined, incredible chefs against an all-star brigade. And I want those young rookies to kick the all-star brigade's ass. I want the all-star brigade to come back and kick the Michelin star chefs, because it's not just about the stars, and ramp it up. But we're having contestants on MasterChef, especially this year, and one of them happens to be a fireman based here in New York. That this guy, he has a palate of an angel. And he's either sat in that kitchen in the firehouse way too long, or he's got too much time on his hands. His name is Eric, and the guy's a dream and fearless, and he has a proper job. You know, he saves lives. He doesn't fry eggs, but his palate is extraordinary. But Justin, my assistant, is here. Ask him to give you his details. Nothing to do with Tinder. Although he's just been promoted to a thing called the League, where you get invited into the Super League. I mean, that for me misses out the point of dating, meeting somebody, getting excited about talking to them across the bar. How the hell you can talk across an iPhone and think that you fancy someone by swiping them bugs the hell out of me. However, what I would like to say is he'll give you his details. Don't swipe left. I don't know what that means, but he told me not to do that. And then come in January when we start taping Hell's Kitchen, as my guest. Thank you.
Maybe people could start meeting each other via Gordon Ramsay Dash.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good idea because they are
cooking together, talking about how they're cooking together.
Yeah, but also I think that social environment of cooking off. I've been asking Bobby Flay to have a cook-off for the last 2 years, and he still won't come. I've even agreed to pay for him and give him a 20-minute head start, and he still won't come. So maybe we can use this to entice him.
Next question.
Hi, I grew up loving Hell's Kitchen, but this can apply to any of your projects. What's it like to watch a chef develop throughout the progress of a season?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, you know, Hell's Kitchen is the boot camp. If I was a 26 or 27-year-old chef and I had the chance of running a restaurant in Vegas with $250,000 as a prize, then I'd give it my all. I think the thing for me when I see these young kids going there and they get excited about the TV as opposed to the job in hand of winning that competition, I'm going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. I will literally absolutely cane them. So, you know, Fox run a show and I run a restaurant, and we try to keep it as real as possible. And when those doors open and that waiting list hits the dining room, we are live, and it goes on. We have a 90-minute to 2.5-hour service, depending on the spacing of the tables. We'll have a bank of just over 165 cameras, and we'll film on average 210 hours of footage for a 42-minute sequence. So when I get all the crap in the press about scallops and risotto and Wellingtons, you're seeing it for the 3rd or 4th time. They've actually done it 10 or 12 times. So I'm pretty pissed the first time. Second time, I'm narky. I am not going to accept that the 3rd time because it wouldn't function in a normal restaurant like that. So watching the development out of the TV giddy sort of headspace, sometimes it puts them in when they forget the cameras and we have nothing to do with the mic and they have nothing to do with, you know, a piece of camera, because we don't do that. No one puts makeup on. No one gets styled. We're running a restaurant. So, you know, get your shit together. Wake up, because you've got an amazing prize that could transform your life. And if you use it properly, it could be an amazing platform to sort of continue your career. Not to say you've made it, but just as one springboard. What was my springboard? My springboard was from Albert in London, getting catapulted in Guy Savoy's kitchen in Paris at 22. You know, I didn't have a pot to piss in, I had no money, and I couldn't speak a word of French. I then became fluent in French within 6 months, and then Guy Savoy got my job at Robuchon, and that was it. You know, my career wasn't set, but I had that foundation. So I'd like to think they use that as a base to continue, but don't sit there, because within 6 months, you're going to be overtaken, and that's really important.
Have you ever had a chef walk into one of the shows and just be more focused on being someone on television rather than what they're cooking, and you've had to sort of snap them out of it and be like, look, it's not about the cameras, it's about the food?
Yeah. I mean, I'd literally, Ricky, they'd be gone in a heartbeat, definitely. So they would, they wouldn't last a meal hour. And also dropping a young chef into the firing line, roasting scallops or cooking lamb. If you've got a resume that's, jumped up, you'll be exposed quickly, But you would think before they came into that competition, they'd nail a risotto. You'd be cooking with your eyes closed in terms of temperature, how we all get taught. We weren't taught how to cook with thermometers. We weren't stabbing a fillet of beef with a thermometer and letting it rest because it's going up to 125 degrees. You were cooking with our fingers. We were cooking with the feel and the touch, and that's really important. That's the right way to cook.
I think there's time for one more question.
Hi, Gordon. Thank you for coming in today.
Please.
Really looking forward to seeing what the game is like and showing it to my friends and family. So my question is for the app, do you have an idea to possibly in the future collaborate with another chef to have their ideas shared in the app? Who would that be? And as a personal note, for my 21st birthday, I went to Las Vegas, and the first restaurant I went to was your burger restaurant. I have never missed a restaurant like I do for that place. So
Thank you.
that will always remain in my heart.
Thank you very
What is
much.
your favorite burger at the restaurant?
That's a really good question. Opening up a burger store in the middle of Vegas, in amongst, listen, there's one thing I learned when I first came to this country. Back in 1992, I had an amazing evening with Daniel Bulu, New Year's Eve, with my wife, and he was friends of her family, and he cooked this amazing burger laced with foie gras. It was extraordinary. So when we opened BURGR,
Burger laced with foie gras.
it was this sort of foie gras. It was a heart attack in a bun. And this thing was extraordinary. I could just feel my veins like closing down. But you look at the success of what he's done now with DB, GB, and all that stuff. Opening up, as a Brit in Vegas, a burger, we had to be as good. So we based our pâtés with Devonshire butter. So it's an amazing sort of caramelized butter from Devonshire, and incredible. The blend is unique. The seasoning is great. There's less butter in the brioche. There's more sustain, and it can take the juice. Right percentage of fat to chuck to brisket. And then the applewood, how we're going to cook these things. But we spent 9 months prior to that developing these things. So, burgers are incredible, but also they could be the worst things because it's the easiest thing to screw up. So who would be ultimate to go up against? I'm competitive, right? I think competition is healthy. So, Bobby, if you're listening, move your ass, okay? I will send the plane for him, okay? It will be all judged behind the scenes with complete, blind, judging. So no one will be fudging it. This is not Iron Chef. This is real chef. And, we'll judge purely on the taste. And I'll give him a 20 minutes head start and $100,000 and the prize money if he wins.
Bobby, are you listening? We're like, come, what an opportunity. Where did this competition with Bobby Flay come from?
Listen, he's a great chef, okay? And there's a lot of great chefs in this country. I think, we all keep each other on our toes. So all that bullshit about being best friends and, hey, we drink every night. No, we don't. We go dancing every night. No, we don't. We exchange recipes every night. Do we hell? So
It's clear, Bobby, if you're listening, Gordon's coming after you.
just move your ass. That's all.
Gordon Ramsay's Dash. Can people download it now? When can people download the game?
It's not out till next Thursday.
Out next Thursday?
Yeah, there's a pre-subscription on Google that's already gone slightly crazy. It's free, which is great, and you get me in the kitchen.
Guys, if you want to be in a kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, download the game next Thursday. Gordon, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.